you are listening or watching Radio Afinju. The time is 9 a.m.
Ẹ bá mi pè o. Àfínjú. Kí lorúkọ rẹ̀? Àfínjú. Rédíò. Àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń gbọ́ àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń wo àfínjú. Lórí WhatsApp. Àfínjú. Instagram. Àfínjú. Facebook. Àfínjú. Lórí X. Àfínjú. Lórí YouTube. Àfínjú. Lórí TikTok. Àfínjú. Kí lorúkọ rẹ̀? Àfínjú. Ẹ bá mi pè o. Àfínjú. Rédíò. Àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń gbọ́ àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń wo àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń gbọ́ àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń wo àfínjú. Rédíò àfínjú. Rédíò àfínjú. Rédíò àfínjú.
Stay informed with news on Radio Afinju.
The time is 2 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, and I say good morning to you this beautiful Wednesday morning. Today being the 10th of September 2025. How are you doing? And I hope you've had a pleasant week so far and hoping to end the week on a great note also. So I say good morning to you once again, and thank you very much for tuning in and listening to Radio Afinju. We are broadcasting live in Oshogbo, Osun State, and my name is Tolulope Awoyale, and you'll be with me from now till the hour of 10 o'clock for the program called The Dailies, where we bring you the news making the front pages of our national dailies to your hearings. That is from your favorite newspaper, be it Punch newspaper, Vanguard newspaper, Daily Post, Daily Trust, whichever one will be bringing the news making the front pages of this newspaper to your hearing, so you will not be left out on any news at all. And if you're yet to follow us on our social media platforms, kindly go to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, all at Radio Afinju, and also on our website at www.afinjufm.com. Also, you can listen to us crystal clear on Zeno Radio and on Radio Garden. We are also there at Radio Afinju. And yes, the dailies is on to you, and also you can drop your comment in the comment section or whatever you think about on any of the news that will be brought to you this morning. So right on now this morning, I have the Punch newspaper with me, I have the Vanguard newspaper, I have the Nigerian Tribune, and also This Day newspaper. So now I'll be bringing you the headlines making the front pages of this newspaper. Starting off strong with the Punch newspaper this morning. The banner headline here reads, Doctors to decide on nationwide strike today. NARD and NEC meets to review governor's response to demands. NAMED decries $1 billion yearly spending on medical tourism. Another right under it says, Tinubu restates commitment to health sector, vows to end hospitals and power crisis with hybrid solutions, and that can be found on the page 7 and 29 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Still on the Punch newspaper, Nupeng suspends strike as Dangote accepts union's demand, and that can be found on the page 23 of the Punch newspaper this morning. 31 states domestic debt is 2.57 trillion naira, and that can be found on the page 23 also of the Punch newspaper this morning. 2027 presidency, Jonathan splits South-South PDP. That's on the page 2 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Still on the Punch newspaper, Osun Kingmakers reject move to dethrone jailed monarch. And that can be found on the page 29 of the Punch newspaper. Vehicle theft. 3 Nigerians jailed 96 years in Ghana. That's on the page 4 and page 5 of the Punch newspaper this morning. And lastly, South Africa dent Eagles World Cup hopes after stalemate. And that's on the page 31 of the Punch newspaper this morning. And that will be all for the Punch newspaper this morning. I'm moving on to the Vanguard newspaper. The banner headline here reads, World leaders in voice condemn Israel's attack on Qatar. And the writer under it says, attack and reaction to Monday's Jerusalem shooting. Netanyahu, UK Prime Minister, distanced self from attack. Experts call for de-escalation of crisis, and it is a serious situation, Pope Leo says. And that can be found on the page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. How kidnapped Major was rescued in Delta community. That can be found on the page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. Gridlock as flash floods take over Lagos Road and paralyzes businesses. And that's on the page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Still on the Vanguard newspaper, Nupeng suspends strike after DSS brokered truce with Dangote. That's on the page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. Expiration of suspension. PDP kicks as Senate denies Natasha resumption. And that's on the page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Lastly, I'll be picking this one that says, Eagles draws against Bafana sad for Nigerians football, Akpeyi says. And that's on the page 31 on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. So moving on to the Nigerian Tribune, and the banner headline here reads, suspension. Senate and Natasha in fresh drama. You can't resume now, Nas tells Kogi senator. Another writer says, side spending appeal court case. And PDP kicks Senate overreaching itself. That is on the page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Dangote and Nupeng reach agreement, strike called off. And that can be found on the page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. We won't tolerate power supply crisis in tertiary hospital, Tinubu says. The writer here says 40% functional PHCs in Nigerians lack access to electricity, report says. And that's on the page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. FIRS and EFCC strengthen alliance to enforce voluntary tax compliance. And that's on the page 6 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Still on the Nigerian Tribune, experts blame low CNG penetration on high infrastructure cost and insufficient stations and others. That's on the page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. And still on the Nigerian Tribune, in the world of health, heart attacks may be triggered by infection, study says. And that's on the page 13 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And lastly, Northern elders urge governors to negotiate with bandits. That's on the page 3 also of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And that will be all I'll be picking from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper today. And lastly, from the This Day newspaper, the banner headline here reads, DSS brokers truce as oil workers call off nationwide strike. The writer under it says the parties agree to allow unionization based on free will. Unions ground commercial activities in states. Ao Nupeng NUC insisted Dangote cannot from union workers. And another writer here says, narrate how Dangote team walked out on minister twice. And the story is on the page 9 of This Day newspaper this morning. Still on this day, Natasha citing pending appeal court case, and NAS blocks senator's resumption despite suspension expiration. And the writer here says PDP condemns move to stop a resumption and tells senator to get ready to resume at NAS. And that is on the page 9 of This Day newspaper. The last one I'll be picking on This Day newspaper this morning says Edun and Oyedele says no plan to implement 5% fuel surcharge in January. And that is also on the page 9 of this day newspaper. And that will be all the news I'll be bringing to your hearing this morning on the dailies today. So do not go anywhere. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll bring you the story in full. You're welcome back, and this is still the dailies, where we're bringing you the news making the waves in our national dailies to your hearings. And I'm breaking up the Punch newspaper first, and I'm picking the story here that says doctors decide to nationwide strike today. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors will hold its National Executive Council meeting to determine its next line of action in a pending ultimatum to the federal government. The association had earlier issued a 10-day ultimatum to relevant government agencies, warning that members will embark on nationwide strikes if their demands were not met. The threat comes amid mounting pressure on Nigeria's fragile public health system, which is already grappling with shortage of doctors, poor infrastructure, and overcrowded hospitals. Resident doctors, who constitute the majority of the medical workforce in teaching and specialist hospitals, have repeatedly gone on strike in recent years over unpaid wages, poor welfare, and inadequate working conditions. Experts warn that another shutdown would cripple healthcare delivery, forcing patients to seek expensive private care and worsening health outcomes nationwide. In a communique issued on September 1st, 2025 and signed by NARD President Dr. Tokwe Oshundara, General Secretary Dr. Oluwashola Odunbaku, and Publicity and Social Secretary Dr. Omoha Amobi, the doctors demanded immediate payment of the outstanding 2025 Medical Residency Training Fund settlement of 5-month arrears from the 25 to 35% of Consolidated Medical Salary Structure Review and other long-standing salary backlogs. They also demanded the payment of the 2024 accruement allowance arrears, prompt disbursement of specialist allowances, and restoration of the recognition of the West African Postgraduate Membership Certificate. The news is well detailed on the Punch newspaper this morning. It says doctors to decide on nationwide strike today. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, another headline here reads, FIRS taps EFCC to enforce tax compliance. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has said that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is key in its drive to enforce voluntary tax compliance. According to a statement from the service on Tuesday, the FIR's Executive Chairman, Dr. Zach Adedeji, said this during a courtesy visit to the EFCC headquarters in Abuja. The newly signed Tax Act will go into effect in January 2026, and the new law transforms FIRS into the Nigerian Revenue Service. During the visit, the two agencies renewed their commitments to collaborate more in order to strengthen Nigeria's tax compliance framework and safeguard public revenue. Adedeji also emphasized the importance of interagency cooperation in sustaining financial stability and building trust in Nigerians' revenue system. We cannot pursue 200 million Nigerians individually to do the right thing, but we want to put a system in place that will aid compliance, Adedeji said. You can help us by letting people know when they violate the law. There is a place you can keep them. On behalf of the President and Nigerians, we thank you for the support and seek even deeper cooperation, he added in a statement. Adedeji explained the compliance will only improve if Nigerians saw tangible results from taxes, saying the main advertisement of voluntary compliance is when people begin to see what we use money we collect for. In achieving that goal, you are critical, and not just in arresting defaulters, but in supporting our Department of Fraud Risk Assessment and Control to ensure value for money. He credited Nigerians' success in meeting its revenue targets to preventive strategies and partnership with agencies like EFCC, saying the achievement was a collective effort, not won by the FIRS alone. The news is also well detailed on the Punch newspaper this morning. It says FIRS taps EFCC to enforce tax compliance. Still on the Punch newspaper, a vehicle theft. 3 Nigerians jailed 96 years in Ghana. The Atamaso Sekut Council Court sitting in Ghana has sentenced 3 Nigerians, Francis Friday, Linus Agwaze and Russell Ekenze, to a combined jail term of 96 years for their involvement in a car theft within Kumasi metropolis of the country. A report learned this from a statement signed by the head of the Public Affairs Unit of the Ashanti Regional Police, Godwin Ainayo, and obtained on Tuesday. This was coming amidst a recent protest by Ghanaians over the involvement of Nigerians within the country in alleged criminal activities. According to Anayo, the trio was arrested on June 20th following suspicion that they were involved in targeting and stealing parked vehicles. According to the spokesperson, the trio were subsequently arraigned before the Circuit Court on July 22nd, but Ekenze pleaded guilty to the charges pressed against him. Anayo stated on July 22nd, 2025, the suspect Francis Friday, Linus Agwaze and Russell Ekenze were arraigned before the Atamaniso Circuit Court. During proceedings, Russell pleaded guilty to the charges and was immediately convicted and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment in hard labor, with other 2 suspects, Francis Friday and Linus Agwaze, pleaded not guilty. Subsequently, on July 23, 2025, the cases of Francis Friday and Linus Agwaze were heard at the Circuit Court 3, where both were found guilty and each was sentenced to 8 years imprisonment on 2 counts, which is sentence run concurrently. He added that the 3 suspects were further arraigned on additional charges in a court were sentenced to 20 years. Finally, on July 24, 2025, Russell Ekenze was further convicted at Circuit Court 2, receiving an additional 10 years IHL sentence on 2 counts to run concurrently with his existing sentence. And some Nigerians have been reported allegedly for committing crimes in Ghana in recent times. The news is also well detailed on the Punch newspaper this morning. You can read more on it. It says vehicle theft. 3 Nigerians jailed 96 years in Ghana. And that will be all I'll be picking on the Punch newspaper this morning. And moving on to the Vanguard newspaper, my first story here says, expiration of suspension, PDP kicks as Senate denies Natasha's resumption. The main opposition, People's Democratic Party (PDP), has berated Senate President Godswill Akpabio over the National Assembly's move to stop Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, PDP Kogi Central Senator, from returning to the Senate after the expiration of a 6-month suspension. The Senate will resume from 2-month recess on September 23rd and September 4th, 2025. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was suspended on March 6th, wrote to the leadership of the Assembly, notifying them of a plan to resume. However, in a reply signed by Acting Clerk to the National Assembly, Dr. Yahya Danzaria, she was informed that a suspension was still active and tied to a pending case at the Court of Appeal. Picked by the Senate move, the PDP yesterday has accused the Senate President and the All Progressives Congress APC-led Senate leadership of trying to stop Akpoti from returning to Senate after serving a 6-month suspension, saying the move was aimed at denying people of Kogi Central Senatorial District their voice in the National Assembly and weakening the opposition. The senator had earlier gone to court to challenge a suspension, which began on March 6, 2025, after she clashed with Senate President Akpabio, who overseeing an arrangement during the plenary. The Federal High Court had ruled in favor of the Senate, prompting her to seek redress to the Appellate Court, and also, according to the National Assembly, no administrative action will be taken until the Court of Appeal delivers its decision. It stressed that a suspension cannot be reviewed until the judicial process was fully concluded. Akpoti-Uduaghan was assured that she would be officially informed the Senate's final position once the case is resolved. No administrative action can be taken by this office to facilitate a resumption, and she will be duly notified of the Senate decision on the matter as soon as it's resolved. The news is well detailed on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. You want to read more on it? The headline says, "Expiration of suspension. PDP kicks as Senate denies Natasha's resumption." Still on the Vanguard newspaper this morning, I'm picking this other story here that says more governors will join APC ahead of 2027 election. Yuwata says. The national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Professor Nathan Wale Yuwata, has expressed confidence that more state governors will defect to the ruling party ahead of the 2027 general election. Speaking at the Bayelsa State Chapter's 12th expanded stakeholders meeting and endorsement of President Bola Tinubu in Yenogwa, Yuwata, who was represented by the APC Deputy National Chairman Chief Emma Enekewu, said President's performance is attracting opposition leaders to the party. Our doors are still open and more governors are still moving to our party. More personalities are still moving in, senators, members of the House of Representatives, because of caliber, integrity, and output of the person we made president, Yuwata said. Recently, the governors of Delta State, Honorable Sheriff Oborevori, and Akwa Ibom State, Governor Umoeno, dumped the People's Democratic Party to join the APC in support of President Tinubu's re-election bid. While dismissing opposition parties, Yuwata likened to the president to a lion faced by distractions. Other people are running around trying to challenge the president in 2027 election, but of course, when you have a lion and other small animals backing, the lion doesn't even take notice of them. He goes about his duty properly, he said. The APC chairman praised the South governors for what he described as their realism and understanding, noting that their defection to the APC underscores the president's leadership qualities. They are leaving their parties to come to APC to support Mr. President in 2027 to record an overwhelming victory, so that as we go into 2027, governance will be easier, he said. He also urged the APC members in Bayelsa to remain united to ensure victory in 2027, and former Bayelsa State Governor He also reaffirmed the unity of the party in the state as preparation intensify for the polls. The news is also well detailed on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. You want to read more on it? It says more governors will join APC ahead of 2027 re-election. UWAT says. Now, still on the Vanguard newspaper, moving on to the business news. Naira appreciates to 1,525 Naira per dollar in parallel market. The Naira yesterday appreciated to 1,525 Naira per dollar in the parallel market from 1,530 Naira per dollar on Monday. Similarly, the Naira appreciated to 1,506 Naira per dollar in the Nigerian foreign exchange market. That test published by the Central Bank of Nigeria showed that the exchange rate of Naira fell to 1,506 Naira per dollar from 1,513 Naira per dollar on Monday, indicating 6.5 Naira appreciating for the Naira. Consequently, the margin between the parallel market and NFEM rate widened at 18.5 per dollar from 17 Naira per dollar on Monday. The news is also well detailed on the Vanguard newspaper. It says Naira appreciates to 1,525 Naira per dollar in parallel markets. Still on the Vanguard newspaper this morning, and this will be my last story I'll be picking from the Vanguard newspaper, says new curriculum don't start implementation in hurry, expert tells federal government. Experts and stakeholders in the education sectors have called on federal government not to start the implementation of a new curriculum for primary and secondary schools in hurry, saying doing so will create more problems instead of solving them. The federal government wants implementation to start in coming academic year, which is starting in many parts of the country next Monday. They spoke in a virtual meeting organized by the Concerned Parents and Educators Network, and the participants included educationists, teachers, administrators, school owners, amongst others. The topic was understanding the new curriculum. This was just called for a gradual roll-off for the implementation of the new curriculum that over 20 million out-of-school children in the country should be considered for adoption and consideration in the new curriculum. They called for pilot schemes in some parts of the country to test run the implementation of the curriculum before scaling it up. In its presentation, Taiwo Akinwalemi noted that the country is about 60 years behind in new curriculum development, and developing a new one would be up to the demand of today's world in necessary and welcome. The curriculum is being used to obsolete, no doubt about that. However, introducing a new one and asking for its immediate implementation leaves a question to be asked. Is it an educational or political decision? This is because there is a lot of gap to fill, which about the infrastructure are required that even the teachers will undo some of the subjects. For instance, we have over 20 million out of school children are being considered too. Is every stakeholder involved in the preparation, and we did not also have enough stakeholders to buy in private school owners who are a critical group and were they also carried along. In a presentation, a school administrator said the reforms gave change to slow down and go deep because of the workload has been reduced. And this is also on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Says new curriculum don't start implementation in hurry, experts tells federal government. And that will be all I'll be bringing on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. We'll go on a short break now, then when we come back we'll continue and bring you the news.
life no get duplicate.
Na so ẹ̀mí ò láàárọ̀ o.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni.
Tẹ́ jẹ́jẹ́ o.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o. Make you take am easy.
Na so.
Radio Afinju says if you drink, don't drive. If you drive, don't drink.
Tẹ́ jẹ́jẹ́ o.
Make you take am easy.
Na so.
This awareness is brought to you by Radio Afinju.
For up-to-date tori wey no get filter.
Politics matter.
Sport.
Ya lo hace. Pierna derecha, directo al arco. ¡Golazo! ¡Golazo!
Culture. Naija and obodo oyibo music. Advertisement wey go reach your customer home and abroad.
This is incredible.
Na on top Radio Afinju you go hear am.
You can't be serious.
Na so. Radio Afinju be baba for all radio stations wey dey Osogbo, Osun State. Radio Afinju na better level for broadcasting.
Alrighty then.
Champions League knockout of all time.
Ẹ̀yin olólùfẹ́ eré ìdárayá ẹ̀yin dà. Ó ti yá láti gbẹnu sí ètò tí yóò máa gbóná rìtìrìtì yeruku lálàlàlá lórí pápá Àfínjú. Ìròyìn wo lẹ fẹ́ gbọ́ nípa eré ìdárayá? Ṣé ti bọ́ọ̀lù aláfẹsẹ̀gbá ni? Aláfọwọ́jù sínú apẹ̀rẹ̀, ẹ̀yìn orí kankéré, tàbí ti tábìlì, ẹ̀kẹ́ òmùwẹ̀, tàbí tàwọn abẹ̀sẹ̀ ya máàpù sójú ẹni. Má dààmú jìnnà, wá gbanu ti Mosúnmọ́lá ọmọ Adégbènró Big Mo. Níbi tí yóò ti máa wà yín sí rìn gbé yín débẹ̀ já yín sí ìmọ̀ tó ń lọ lágbolé eré ìdárayá lórí ètò pápá Àfínjú ní gbogbo ìyálẹ̀ta aago 11 sáago 12 ọ̀sán gbẹ̀rẹ̀ lójoojúmọ́ lórí ìkànnì rédíò Àfínjú. Àyà kàtàkàtà Big Mo ti wọlé dé gìjà. Big Mo àti ikọ̀ àwọn àyànnà eré ìdárayá lèmi yóò ganu sí lórí ìkànnì rédíò Àfínjú. Ẹ má lọ gọ̀ pápá Àfínjú ni.
Na my hustle be this. Na here I dey see my daily urgent 2k o. Ìhà yín ni mo ti ń rí ẹgbẹ̀rún méjì náírà pàjáwìrì tèmi lójoojúmọ́. On this program, we will bring people from different business backgrounds to come tell their stories and share insights with us. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́, oníṣòwò, ẹ gbáradì. Ètò ti kàn yín ní rédíò Àfínjú. Bó o lẹ ti bẹ̀rẹ̀, kí ni àwọn tójú yín rí, kí lẹ̀ ń tà gangan, bó o lẹ sì ti ń tà. My hustle will give you a direct insight into the business world. Join Aderonke Lawal, Ayoka Ọmọ Àkànmú on my hustle every Wednesday 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Radio Àfínjú to have your mind blown. Ẹ lè tẹ̀lé wa lórí gbogbo ìkànnì abánidọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ wa pátápátá ní Radio Àfínjú. My hustle, my urgent 2k.
For the best music,
show the capital business, show the character dickiness, show.
Season sport presentation.
Round 10 begins. If they complete this round.
balanced and objective news reportage, and all-round entertainment. Listen to the jewel of the pack of radios in this class.
Tune in
to Radio Afinju right here in Osogbo, Osun State.
As the clouds go gray, thunder roars and the earth sings. The season's just beginning. The sunlight it hides as the clouds make way for the pouring of my blessings. I will not be afraid. I see it now, I understand, I know. So I embrace it, dance in the rain. It's for my seed to grow. For every prayer and every seed I've sown, the Lord of the harvest knows I'm reaping back 100-fold. The land is green, it's green, oh, oh. The land is green, it's green. Can't you see? The harvest is ready, 'cause the Lord of the harvest told me so. It's green for me.
You're welcome back from that short break, and this is still the Dailies, where we bring you the news making the front pages of our national dailies to your hearings. And I am still on the Nigerian Tribune this morning. I'm picking this story here that says Osun Kingmakers reject move to dethrone jailed monarch. Tension erupted on Tuesday during the meeting of princes in Ikpetumodo, Osun State, after a call was made for Governor Ademola Adeleke to declare the stool of Ikpetumodo vacant following the conviction of Oba Joseph Oloyede in the United States. Oba Oloyede, the 27th Ikpetumodo, was recently sentenced to more than 4 years imprisonment in the United States for COVID-19 law fraud. He was also ordered to forfeit assets and pay over $4.4 million in restitution. The meeting, held within the palace premises and presided over by Asalu of Ikpetumodo, Chief Sunday Adedeji, started around 4 p.m. and progressed without incident until a prince demanded that Adedeji, as the most senior surviving kingmaker, write a formal letter to Governor Adeleke declaring the throne vacant. Adedeji, however, rejected the request and reportedly rescued himself from any move to declare the stool vacant. A stand sparked a shouting match among the attenders, causing the meeting to break out around 6 p.m. Speaking afterwards, a prince from Aribile ruling house, Olaboye Ayola, expressed the disappointment at Adedeji's refusal. He said, during the meeting, we all decided that 2 new kingmakers should be elected to replace the deceased ones, and a letter written to the governor declaring the seat vacant. But Chief Adedeji refused, insisting that he won't do that. He also announced that he was no longer interested in being a kingmaker, and that led to chaos, and the meeting ended without any resolution. The news is well detailed on the Nigerian Tribune this morning, and the headline reads, Osun Kingmakers reject move to dethrone jailed monarch. If you want to read more on it, it's on the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And still on the Nigerian Tribune, I'm picking this other story here that says Nupeng calls off strike after DSS brokered truce with governors and unions. The Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers has called off its industrial action after the Department of State Services brokered a truce between the federal government, all industry stakeholders, and organized labor. Reports gather that the resolution followed a high-level meeting convened in Abuja with key government officials, representatives of the Dangote refinery, and leaders of major trade unions. Those in attendance included Minister of Finance Wale Edun, Minister of Labor and Employment Muhammadu Megari, Minister of State and Labor Employment Nkeruka Oyejocha, and Dangote refinery delegation led by Alhaji Sayu Dantata. Also represent were the labor leaders Mr. Akpoa Williams of Nupeng, Benson Upa of Nigerian Labour Congress, and N.A. Notomini of Trade Union Congress. And after hours of deliberation, both parties resolved to uphold existing labor law, and with emphasis that employees must not be compelled to join any union or any union at all, and should retain the freedom to either affiliate with or decline membership of any labor body. Other outstanding issues of contention were also resolved, culminating in the signing of a memorandum of understanding by all the stakeholders. The agreement led to the immediate suspension of Nupeng's strike action, and which threatened to disrupt petroleum supply and distribution across the country. Government officials hailed the outcome as a significant step towards industrial peace, while labor leaders reaffirmed their commitment to protecting workers' rights within the boundaries of the law. The news is well detailed on the Nigerian Tribune. You want to read more on it? It says Nupeng calls off strike after DSS brokers truce with governors and unions. Still on the Vanguard newspaper, moving on to the health sector. Heart attacks may be triggered by infection, study says. Scientists from Finland and the United Kingdom have uncovered groundbreaking evidence that heart attacks may be triggered by hidden bacteria within plaque, a sticky buildup of substances such as cholesterol and fat found in blood vessels that distribute oxygen-rich blood to the entire body. They found the dormant layers of bacterial biofilm within plaques when released due to a viral infection or another external stressor can trigger heart attacks. Once activated, the bacteria-triggered inflammation can cause plaques to rupture, leading to a formation of dangerous blood clots in several cases and a heart attack. A heart attack is a life-threatening condition that requires immediate medical attention. Survival depends on the severity of heart attack and promptness of medical care and other factors such as age, and many survivors can go on to lead productive lives. Using a range of advanced methodologies, the research found the buildup of fat and cholesterol in the walls of blood vessels may harbor dormant bacteria for years and even decades, contributing coronary heart disease and leading cause of heart attack. For the study, the researchers obtained samples of arterial plaques, deposits of cholesterol, and other debris that can accumulate along blood vessels from individuals who have died from sudden cardiac death, and as well as patients from who their plaque surgically was removed. Using various methods, including genetic sequencing, they identify several groups of bacteria logged within these plaques, and this work of extensive EU-funded cardiovascular research project involving 11 countries. Published in the Journal of American Heart Association, the research findings challenge the conventional understanding of the heart attacks and open new possibilities for treatment and diagnosis and even vaccine development. The news is well detailed on the Nigerian Tribune this morning. It says heart attacks may be triggered by infections. Still on the Nigerian Tribune, and this will be my last story here, says Northern Groups urges governors to support peace talks with bandits. The Northern Elders Progressive Group has appealed to governors in the Northwest to throw their weight behind ongoing peace talks with bandits, saying dialogue offers a best chance of ending years of bloodshed in the region. NEPG's Northwest Coordinator Malam Yusuf Abubakar told journalists that the group is encouraged by non-military peace efforts led by National Security Advisor Malam Nuhu Ribadu alongside other security stakeholders. We are happy with the steps being taken so far, and traveling recently from Sokoto to Gusau and Funtua to Zaria, I observe a more peaceful atmosphere, and compared to before, there is improvement in security, in patrol, and in safety of commuters along that road, he said. He urged governors to focus more on dialogue and preventive measures instead of repeated condolence visits and costly military operations that stress the country's security resources. It is better for a governor to spend his resources on saving lives than spending billions on condolence. One life is far more important than a political gesture, he says. Responding to critics opposed to negotiating with armed groups, Abubakar stressed that dialogue is a globally tested approach. Even powerful nations have negotiated with the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and the Houthis. Negotiation is not a weakness, it is about saving lives, he explained. Abubakar also took a swipe at governors who publicly claim to know the whereabouts of bandits and yet fail to share actionable intelligence with security forces. It is becoming of a leader that he knows the movement of criminals but does nothing with the information, and such propaganda is irresponsible. He further defended the NSA and committee working on the peace process, cautioning against attempts to politicize or discredit their efforts. The news is well detailed on the Nigerian Tribune. You want to read more on it? It says Northern Groups urges governors to support peace talks with bandits. moving on to the last newspaper I'll be picking this morning, says DSS brokers truce as oil workers calls of nationwide strike. And I'm picking this from This Day newspaper. National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers yesterday has called off its industrial action after the Department of State Services brokered a truce between the federal government, oil industry, and stakeholders organized labor. Reports gathered that the resolution followed a high-level meeting convened in Abuja with key government officials representing Dangote Refinery and leaders of major trade unions in attendance. But before the agreement was reached, the industrial action embarked upon by the oil workers and grounded commercial activities in several states of the Federation, subjecting motorists to long full queues and commuters to immeasurable hardship. Aside from the top officials, it was learned that the Minister of Finance and other ministers were also present in the meeting. In addition, labor leaders were also present and played critical roles at the meeting. The news is also well detailed on This Day newspaper. Says DSS brokers truce as oil workers calls of nationwide strike. Still on This Day newspaper, and this will be the last story for today. Edun and Oyedele says no plan to implement 5% fuel surcharge in January. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, and the Chairman of Presidential Committee of Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Taiwo Oyedele, declared that there was no immediate plan to implement the contentious 5% fuel tax now or January 1st, 2026. Given the already high cost of living and hardship in the land, the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria (TUC) had on Monday issued a 14-day ultimatum to the federal government rescind any plan to introduce any tax surcharge or risk a total shutdown of the economy. Edun, who addressed the press conference in Abuja, admitted that while the Tax Administration Act will become operational in January 1st, 2026, the 5% fuel surcharge which captured the act will automatically come into effect. He explained that the Tax Administration Act is among 4 legislative instruments enacted to boost transparency, simplify compliance for individuals and businesses, and also modernize revenue collection. He said, but let me rephrase and underscore the following. The tax reform bills and the tax act will not become operational until January 1st, 2026, and the 5% fuel surcharge which mentioned therein will not automatically come into effect. There is a process by which any surcharge can come into effect, which requires commencement order from the Honorable Minister of Finance, and these indeed must be published in a gazette. So according to him, the surcharge is not long-standing provision initiated in 2007 under the Federal Road Maintenance Agency FEMA Act, and that is not a new tax measure created by Tinubu administration, adding that its inclusion in the 2025 Act was a part of efforts to consolidate and harmonize existing laws for clarity and ease of compliance. Lastly, the minister noted that original purpose was 40% of the proceeds that user surcharge would go to FEMA, while 60% would go to the state and state equivalent of FEMA, otherwise known as the State Road Management Agency or whatever name or form. And the news is well detailed on This Day newspaper. You want to read more on it. It says Edun and Oyedele says no plan to implement 5% surcharge in January. And with that, we've come to the end of the dailies this morning. I hope you have picked one or two news to keep you updated on. Meet me again next week, Wednesday, for this dailies. And if you're here to follow us on our social media platforms, kindly go to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, all at Radio Afiju, and also on our website at www.afijufm.com. We are also on Radio Garden and also on